Hi, welcome to practice. Today's class is all about our spines. It's very common to feel stuck or in pain in different parts of our back, and that's because the back is a complex structure. It's the center of our body. It's made of 4 different curves, and in those curves, the bones are shaped differently. They're capable of different ranges of motion, and so it's common for us as we proceed through life to move some of them really regularly and to get stuck in other areas. And so when that happens, it can produce, I'm not going to say it will always produce, but it can produce pain or discomfort, and that is what we are aiming to address in today's practice. So welcome, my name is Brenton, and of course I'm joined today by my pal Ollie, and hope you feel very welcome at home to make decisions that are right for you, as you will see both of us make decisions that are right for us. To begin with, do you have a yoga block? If so, go ahead and grab that. If not, grab like a Harry Potter sized book. That should do the trick. Something that's about 4 inches big. Okay, we're gonna start with releasing the spine from the head down. So we're gonna take the block, the lowest height, underneath the neck, or the head rather, I should say. So when you get your head down on here, it's very common in our everyday lives to jut the chin away from the throat. There's a lot of reasons for that. So here you want to do the opposite. You want to let the chin get heavy into the throat so that you feel that the back of the neck gets really long. You may even use your hands to pick your head up and scooch it back a little bit so that you feel that there's some length between the vertebra in the neck already. See how your shoulders feel in relation to the neck here, because if you are stuck or tight in this neck, it will impact the shoulder carriage. So as you feel the back of the neck lengthen out here, feel a sense of groundedness through your chest and your shoulders and your ribs and your belly. Let your hands rest wherever it's comfortable and slowly begin to rock your head to the left and then to the right. Take this opportunity to deepen your breathing. Breathe slowly in and out through your nose. If you are already finding little tender spots either on the back of your head or as you turn left to right, if you start to feel a pull or a stretch through the shoulders and you sense that it's the good type, you can pause, play around. We'll now readjust the block underneath the shoulder blades. So you'll need to rock over onto a side, perhaps come up a little bit. When you do that, try to keep your head heavy so that those neck muscles that you just lengthened and released don't grab. You're just going to move the block. It's the same exact height, the lowest height. Now right underneath your shoulder blades, your head is off the block. So what can you do? You can interlock your hands behind the back of your head and let your head fall into your hands. Get the same amount of space that you just had when the head was on the block. And it's the same principles here as well. Feel a heaviness through your chest and your ribs and your belly. And use your hands to pull your head back. So you're getting traction and length here. This is a part of the spine that gets very stuck, and it usually gets stuck in the opposite direction of what you're doing right now. So you may feel there's a lot of constriction here. That would be normal. And breathing in nice and low and deep. Start to move left and right on the block. So you're side bending with the ribs and the upper body. Let your face soften. Deepen your breathing in and out through your nose, nice and low into the belly.
You may want to put some blanket on that book of yours, because this may not be the most comfortable thing.
Okay, that's a good point. Ollie said you can put a blanket and cover your block or your book with your blanket if this is too harsh, if the block is too harsh. So moving around, you can even move kind of like you're doing cat-cows on your block a little bit. And imagine your whole rib cage here. Your ribs attach to your middle spine. One section of your spine is your neck, and then the next section of your spine is your mid-back. And you know it's your mid-back because that's where your ribs attach. So you got 12 ribs on each side, 12 thoracic vertebrae as they're called. And so when you are moving your ribs, you get really good information about what your spine is doing. So as you move around here, imagine that each of those ribs has space and is moving. None of the ribs are stuck. And you're going to find that some of those ribs are used to moving a lot, and other of the ribs hardly ever move. Okie dokie. Same thing, take care of yourself. We're going to kind of roll off and come around and replace the block one more time under the sacrum. Okay. So your middle back goes now into your lower back, which is called your sacral or your lumbar spine. And the lumbar spine ends at the sacrum, which is a fusion of low back bones in like an upside down triangle shape. And those bones they connect to the pelvis on the back side. So if you ever see your little back dimples in your low back, the back dimples mark the sides of your sacrum. It's like where the sacrum and the pelvis come together on both sides. So now when you are with the sacrum resting on the block, start to rock your pelvis like it's doing cat-cow. And here you're going to find, again, where do you feel like movement is really accessible, aka it's familiar, you're used to that type of movement, versus where do you feel movement is more inaccessible, like you haven't done it before. And you want to go more into the areas of the places that feel new rather than the places that feel overly familiar. And see how your low back responds to this. Does your low back feel like it has a lot of space in some positions? Does it feel kind of crunchy in other positions? You don't necessarily need to know what to do with this information, but just start to absorb it. Start to become more curious about your body. So we want to set our pelvis in neutral here. And neutral is, you never really know for certain whether you've gotten in neutral, but neutral means in this position, your tailbone is lifting up towards the backs of your knees, and your frontal hip bones are heavy down into the block, like they're sort of rolling down towards your armpits. And when that happens, you should feel like your abdomen is anchored down towards the floor. Now take your hands onto some front of the body, like the front of your pelvis or your belly or something like that, and use them to give you feedback, because you want to hold all of this nice and secure. This is called stability. As you start to lift one knee up over the pelvis, and then you take that foot back down, and then you lift the other knee up over the pelvis, and you take that foot back down. So slow marches here. Pick a pace that feels right for you, and use your hands to keep yourself honest. So you're really trying not to move in the pelvis or the low back. And your knees should not feel tense. So if you feel pulling or tension in your knees, your feet need to probably move farther away from you. And a lot of our discomfort in our hips and our low back happens because we don't practice moving our hips separately from our pelvis and our spine, and vice versa. And so what that means is the brain ends up learning how to just move things in a big, non-discriminant clump. And that can cause compensation. And it can really put a damper on our mobility. So here we are teaching our hips how to be hips so that our low back can benefit. All right, so let's go ahead and release that. Ground the feet down. We're gonna imagine we're using the feet, we're using the calves, using the hamstrings and the butt muscles to lift the pelvis just a little bit up off the block. So now you're holding your pelvis up using the strength of your legs rather than using the support of the block underneath you. And just hold there. Soften your jaw. Breathe nice and deep in and out through your nose. Great job. We're going to move the block out to the side. Bring the hips back down. Maybe windshield wiper through the knees a little bit. And here you can just sort of be a little bit more loose about the whole situation. So as the knees travel left to right, the pelvis can go with you. The spine can go with you. And again, notice for any parts that just feel like they're sort of blah, like moving a little bit too much, or they're just kind of falling open and they don't feel very secure, very supported. You want to, as you travel left and right, make tiny adjustments between the repetitions so that everything feels like it's moving at a good pace. Nothing feels like it's being too dominant. Nothing feels crunched. You know, if you start to feel crunching, stuff, or like something is being squeezed or something like that, how do you give it more space? All right, let's go ahead and roll over, meet in a tabletop position. Set the hands underneath the shoulders and the knees underneath the hips, which may be closer together than you sometimes practice. And take a couple of moments here to breathe and feel the spine. We'll set the spine in neutral on the wall in a little bit, but it's good to move the spine first so that you actually have access to neutral, because if you don't move it first, you're going to try to get into neutral and it's going to be impossible. So we're going to do cat-cow here. Let's, to begin with, feel like we're all held in on the front of the body. That's important. As we lift the tailbone ever so slightly and drag the heart through the window of the armpits and look up. So hold here with me and make sure when you're looking up that the back of your neck still has a lot of space. And now take your attention to your back ribs and stretch the back of your ribs away from your pelvis. That's going to help keep you integrated on the front of the body. So just imagine you're getting a lot of space here from tailbone to crown. Now push through the pads of your fingers. Scoop your tailbone down, your belly button in, the front of your ribs curl in like a cinnamon roll, and push through the pads of your fingers to spread the shoulder blades away from each other. Lengthen the ears away from the shoulder ledges so that the neck gets really long, and pause. Now imagine here that the front of your ribs the bottom up front of the ribs are lifting away from the pelvis. You have a ton of space on the front of the body. Okay, we're going to travel back, soften between the shoulder blades, tilt the tailbone up as you drag the heart forward. We look up and we get space along the back of the body, space through the back of the neck, space through the back of the ribs, and then push through the finger pads as you reverse the shape, spreading out through the shoulder blades. Let's do this a few more times. And I'll start to be more quiet so you can start to feel for yourself all the space. After this last time, come on off your wrist by tenting your fingers. And we'll start here by stepping the left foot forward underneath us and come on up. You can put that blanket underneath your knee if you need to, okay? So here your hips are doing two different things. This is a really great thing to train. We know that happy hips then corresponds with happy low back, and that just rides all the way up the chain. So to begin with here, we want the pelvis level between the legs. That means we're not like cocking it to one side or something like that. That means that the frontal hip bones are level between the two of them. That means that we're lifted up over the back knee so that you can push through the back knee. You can anchor through the back thigh. And now from here, lift up through the whole spine. Do whatever you find helpful with the hands. Sometimes I like this, like flying the hands back. This reminds me to get lifted through the front of the chest, but I have to remember pulling my front ribs back to the back wall, and I have to remember to pull my head up and back as well. Good, now we're gonna hold the legs into the pelvis. It's like you're squeezing them in here, and then keeping nice and organized like you're catting the spine as you come down. Take the right hand to the floor, and we're gonna turn open into a little twist here. So we're gonna pull the front ribs into the back wall of the body as we rotate open. And just breathing here, you do what feels right with this left hand, whether it's resting on the left knee, that feels good for me right now. You can also lift up through the elbow or through the fingers, but I like the knee for now. At the same time, release the head. So the right ear releases and dangles by that right deltoid, and breathe. Good, we're gonna take both hands to the inside of the feet, lift the back knee up, turn open to the side. You can have hands on floor or not, whatever makes sense to you. Bend into the right knee though, so that you put a stretch on the inside of that left leg. And getting the legs a degree of freedom also helps with the feeling of that low back. So maybe if it feels good to you to go left and right, you can toggle between the sides. If it feels good for you to just hold the stretch and maybe even pulse into a little bit, you can do that as well. Whatever's gonna feel right to you. Good, we're gonna turn back over that front foot. Bring the back foot in to meet the front foot. So now you're in a forward fold. And this is where it can be really problematic on a lot of people's low backs. So widen the feet out a little bit, bend the knees, and get really deep into the hip creases. You can even push your fingers back there to really deepen it. And imagine here as you tumble out of the pelvis with your spine, like the low back is the part that has the most space. And then everything above the spine, above that, through the rest of the spine, just benefits from the space you create in that low back. Good. Let's take the feet underneath the hips, bend into the knees, step the left foot back and tap the knee down. We're gonna come into that low lunge again. So coming up over the left knee, we take a few moments to orient the pelvis so it feels level between the legs. The back leg feels like it's turned on, it's pushing down. The left thigh is active. And then taking the next few moments of the pose to find the extension of the spine. And you gotta call yourself out. Like, are you normally too much like this backbend shape? That's me, so I always have to work against that. But you might be more of this, like this person who's curled in. So you need to work against whatever you sort of naturally get stuck to really find the elongation that we're looking for. Hold the legs into the hips as you take the hands down. Lift the back knee, turn the toes open to the left, bend into the left knee now, so you put a stretch on the inside of the right leg. Hold or move left to right, whatever's gonna feel good on your feet and on your ankles, on the tissues of the legs. I think I skipped the twist, right? So come on back over to the front knee. Take the left knee down. The legs squeeze into the hips as the left hand comes down to the floor. Feel your front low ribs pull into the back of the body as you rotate open. So twists are the hardest thing for me to feel personally, as far as how they're quote unquote supposed to be in my spine. I just try to feel pulled in and then rotating evenly on all sides. Space everywhere. Relaxing through the left ear. Taking the right hand down, lifting the back knee, stepping it forward, creating more space between the feet if that's helpful. Bending into the knees with the forward fold. And this time, interlocking the hands behind the head. And really pulling the belly button up to the spine. Really pulling the chin into the throat. And then feeling the spine tumble all the way out. Maybe you feel a long line of stretch through the backs of the legs, perhaps even through the whole back body, all the way into even the forehead. Good job. Ground down through the feet and slowly, slowly roll yourself all the way on up to stand. Whew. Let's step wide on the mat, the feet open. When you do this, it's easy for the pelvis to just feel like bleh, like splooged out. So we need to gather up energy from the floor, from the feet. You press, you draw imaginary energy up your legs into your pelvis so you feel held in. Your booty is holding you in, your low belly is holding you in. And now we're gonna interlock the fingers in front of us with the elbows wide as if like we're just holding something here. Watch that you're not leaning back. So I'm not leaning back, I'm not crowded forward, I'm trying to get nice and lifted here. And now imagine that from the belly button down, you're frozen and you're just turning from the ribs to the left and to the right. And feel these, the low front ribs, where they pull into the sternum. Whew. Those low front ribs want to pull into the sternum the whole time. Sometimes it's easy to twist by sort of stretching things out and like pulling things out away. I want to pull everything into the center and have a really solid, honest turn, even if it's not much range of motion. Okay. Releasing the hands down by the side, reaching the right arm up alongside the ear. Get long through both sides of the body as you tip now over the left side. Those little front pockets of the ribs right here where they attach into the sternum, pull them into the sternum as you tip over to the side. Come all the way back up. Reach the left arm up, the right arm down. Feel those little pockets of the ribs curling in, and then going over to the right. Coming all the way on up to stand, and then stepping, hopping the feet together, whatever feels good for you. Now we will see if we can find our neutral spine. So for this, we'll need a wall. Go ahead and join me. Most of us, our hips are so tight that we actually can't straighten our legs and have a neutral spine at the same time. So let's not even try to go that far. We're gonna flex the hips by moving the feet a little bit farther forward so you feel secure, like you feel like your butt is solid on the wall. So here you go, your butt is on the wall, it's your sacrum. You can do your little cat-cows here with your pelvis just to kind of feel out, what does it feel like when my pelvis is tipping forward? What does it feel like when my pelvis is scooped underneath? We want to find where like the middle of the sacrum, right in between those back dimples, is pushing up against the wall. Your belly button feels like it's going back. And these frontal hip bones, if you lay your hands on top of them, feel pretty much up and down. Now, lift up through those front ribs so you get a lot of space in the lower abdomen, and try to, as the front ribs are kind of tacked back to the wall as well, try to unfurl your chest left to right and open so that your shoulder blades go on the wall. Now the last part, pull your head up and back, your chin into your throat, the back of the neck nice and long. See if you can get your head onto the wall. Wow, like I can't even, holy moly smoly, I can't even really get it up there. That's touching. So here's the thing, you wanna feel like you can access neutral without it feeling so crazy. It's gonna feel crazy if you're holding your breath. Are you holding your breath? I am. So try to soften the breathing. And now, try to recreate this away from the wall. So lean forward, you're gonna come out of neutral a little bit. Now your pelvis is over your ankles, so to get a little bit more space, bend the knees. And as you bend the knees, I'll do a side version. As you bend the knees, imagine that your sacrum is on the wall and that you're pulling up and back so that your shoulders unfurl onto the wall and that your head pulls up and back onto the wall. And now set all of this in a way that you can breathe. So if you need to relax it a little bit and not be so rigid about it, that's fine. The point is not to always live like this, but to use this to guide you, to give you some information, because ideally we would have access to our neutral spine at all times, and we would be moving away from neutral in a very thought about way. Okay, so we're gonna now move away from neutral. Come on, wherever you wanna come. If it feels okay for you to put a little pressure on your head by interlocking the hands back here, you could do that. Otherwise, you can have your hands dangling down. Now, we want as much space as possible between the vertebrae here. So that means that you need to keep everything lifted until it's turn to go out of neutral. So you get yourself into neutral. And now the first thing that comes out is your chin. As you tuck your chin into your throat. And now all of the vertebrae in the back of your neck, along the back side, are getting more space between them. You have 7 vertebrae back there. So feel each one of them kind of getting a little bit more space. It ends right where your upper back starts. Like you can even feel the little knobby upper back point. That is where it turns from your neck into your mid-back. So now starting at the very top of your mid-back, start to curl in. And just go as slowly as you can, trying to really articulate this movement. Being able to move things independently is a really great skill. And we're just going to keep doing this. Imagine you're like a cinnamon roll rolling into yourself. And my legs are working really hard to be good bases of support for the task at hand. And as you curl in, you want space along the front of your body, as much space as you possibly can get. When you feel like you've had enough, press down through the heels, go slow, as slowly as you came in, as you reverse your way all the way back up. Oh, wow. When you come all the way back up, unfurl to neutral, and then go in the other direction. It's going to feel like pulling up and back, and you start it at the head. Oh, yeah. And then the chest a little bit. Oh. And then the lower ribs. And the lower belly. Okay. Can we do that one more time? If it feels good for you. Staying nice and lifted, because that's where the space originates from, the lift. So you start with the chin. You get space in all 7 of your neck vertebrae. And you start curling in on yourself. Now getting space between your 12 thoracic vertebrae. Followed by that low back. This is opening the whole back line of fascia, which is a web of connective tissue that starts on the bottom of your feet and goes all the way up the backs of your legs, your butt, your entire spine, the back of your head, and ends at your third eye, your forehead. Again, when you're ready to come back up, go slowly. Get lift through each part of the spine. Oh, yeah. Okay. So come on up here. We can get a little bit more space. Oh, wow, I feel so much taller. So we can get a little bit more space this time through the side body. So start, if you have a mirror, that can be helpful too, because when you can see yourself and you can say, am I about even left to right here? Because that's where you want to start. You want to start even. And now you keep the same principle. You keep the lift and the neutrality until it's time to move. And then the first thing that moves is the left ear to the shoulder. And that's it. Now other things are going to go with it because your brain is used to moving things in clumps. So it's weird, but as soon as the left ear goes down, it's like the hips want to hike, the ribs want to do things. So we don't do that. We work against that. And now we slowly start to slouch. I don't know if slouch is the right word. Over to the left. And as we do this, we hold things in to the center. So again, things are not being yanked or sort of pulled. We're letting gravity do a little bit of work here, but we're trying to stay connected and smart in the core, because that's what we're also teaching. We're teaching space, but we're teaching smart space. Just getting, hopefully starting to feel, wherever it is that you feel it, it's going to really be different for everybody. But imagining the side that's getting long, the right side, you're getting space between each one of those little ribbies. Hi, ribbies. And when you feel ready, pushing down through the heels, again, going nice and slowly to reverse your way back up. And you could be at a different timing than me, so I want to call that out and make sure you feel okay with that, because you can pause this, you can freestyle and go on your own. Up. So when you go to the other side, start with the ear. So the ear, the shoulder, feeling everything is still pulling in. And I really feel, wow, like my legs they're working so hard that my butt is shaking a little bit, because I wasn't expecting this. Wasn't expecting to need to do such a great job of holding things together. And that's what it needs. The legs need to learn how to do things on their own and not, so the spine can have its freedom. When you feel ready again on this side, to come all the way on up. Come all the way on up. Okay, one more time on each side. We'll just give us the space to individually go. And I'm done with my first side, so I'm going to start my second side now. And finally, when you feel ready to come all the way back on up, come all the way back on up. See if you can find neutral here. And then we have just one more thing to do, and that is the rotational element of the spine. Again, the spine is built in 4 sections. We want those sections to be independently strong from each other. So the way we're going to do this, we're going to hold everything in neutral until it's time to move. We're going to start simply by turning the head to the left and to the right. It's a movement you do probably all the time, but do you do it quite like this? Do you do it where the chest is nice and open, and as you turn the head left and right, your ears are evenly lifted from your shoulder ledges? And that's going to make sure that you're not sort of torquing or twisting or side bending and combining all different types of movements in a non-discriminate way, which is how you probably normally move your head. So this is actually reteaching you the principles of rotation. Now, when you turn to the right this next time, hold and isolate the mid-back spine and turn that to the right as well. When you do that, make sure that you're not sort of pulling yourself over to the right. So you're still imagining like my spine has been shish kebabbed, and I'm just turning around that shish kebab. Now, the last component is the low back and the hips even. So you're gonna turn from the pelvis to the right and unfurl the same way you came in. So the pelvis, then the ribs, then the chin. And the chin goes to the left. And hold as the ribs go. Get out of any side bending or back bending or forward bending that you're also accidentally doing. And then turn from the hips. And then the hips come back forward. Then the ribs come back forward. Then the chin. So do this one more time on each side, and you can go on your own. Okay, and after this last time, coming forward and maybe just shaking it out so that it's like not so serious anymore. We're done with this. Some of this mobility stuff can be kind of grating on the nerves a little bit. So if you feel a little bit high strung right now or a little bit antsy, that can be quite normal. So take a few deep breaths and shake it out a little bit. Just feel like kind of loose and limber now because we were being so strict and precise before. And come back over to the wall and test neutral just to see if anything that we just did made it easier for you to find neutral. Oh wow, my head feels like I can find the wall so much easier now. Oh. You're here to make some sense of it. So if it doesn't quite feel right yet, it doesn't quite feel like it's making so much sense, be open to the possibility that it will, and it can if you stay open and curious. If you want this to make sense, it will make sense. It will come for you. All right, let's go ahead and come on off the wall, and we'll transition back down onto the mat. If you intuitively feel like something would feel good for you to do, some type of movement or something like that, go ahead, pause the class, do a little bit of movement on your own. And where we'll join up is in Shavasana. So if you're ready for Shavasana right now, go ahead, maybe take the block that you had before back underneath the head. And we're gonna try to recreate the neutral, kind of like the neutral spine here, except for that the head is lifted. And this is because a lot of us have limitations in the head. This is like why pillows feel good for us at night. We have limitations of finding that neutral spine. And so we need a little bit of help. When you get the head up, it allows the other parts of the spine to find neutral more easily. So take your feet on the floor and your knees up. With your knees up and your head up, now you can get heavier through the center of your body. And feel you can do some cat-cows of the pelvis again if you feel like you haven't quite found what neutral is in your pelvis. Really lengthening the ribs out. I just reset my ribs and I found another inch or two of space. Feeling the back of the neck grow long as the chin tucks in and the shoulders relax and the arms relax. And the bottom ribs relax and they get heavy. And as you close your eyes, let all of the muscles on your face soften and spread out. You're more than welcome to end your practice right here. If you're ready to move on, slowly begin to rock your head from left to right. Bringing a little bit of movement back into your fingers and your palms and your wrists. If it feels okay on your neck and shoulders, you can stretch your arms overhead perhaps. Maybe even cradling the head in the hands and pulling the head back, lengthening it back down to the block for another moment. Maybe even taking your palms to cover your forehead and your eyes, creating a little bit of a dark blanket, signaling to the nervous system that it's okay to release and relax. Stay soft as you roll over and come on up to a seated position, perhaps keeping your eyes closed the whole time. Take in how it feels to sit upright on the floor, and if that does not feel so good for you, you're always welcome to sit up in a chair or on a couch, whatever feels good. Many times in life we encounter discomfort or challenges, and it can be easy to feel sorry for ourselves or feel like there's nothing that we can do to make the situation better. We can feel helpless or powerless sometimes. And what keeps me coming back to this yoga practice is that it reminds me often that that is not the case, that I am much more powerful than I give myself credit for. And that if I go beyond the confusion and I let myself be confused and I let myself not know the answer and stumble forward and try to find something and it doesn't work out and I have to keep doing that again and again and again, eventually things start to make sense. I don't even notice when they start to make sense. I just notice after 20 things have made sense and my life has gotten a little bit better as a result, and then I look back and say, that challenge isn't so challenging anymore. That challenge has been more or less figured out. And there's many things that we can do here on this yoga mat that will impact the quality of our physical bodies and will move into the psychological realm as well. That's my hope for all of us today, that we've each learned a little bit of something, we've moved in a new and interesting way, and as a result, our brains will categorize this experience and be transformed by this experience. And as a result, we will believe that more is possible for us. Great job in today's practice. Stick around for the other Reboot classes. There's one for the shoulders, there's one for the hips, there's one for the hands and feet. These would be great to package into a full day if you were like, let's just do a whole bunch of yoga today, or to do throughout the week. And I bet if you do this whole entire series, you'll learn a lot about your body and things will start to feel a lot better. You'll find different things that feel right for you that you will then be able to incorporate in other yoga classes or just in anything else that you do, including sitting behind a steering wheel or at a computer desk or something. All right, I'll leave it there. Nice to see you, and I will see you here soon.